All right, so it's another beautiful day right here on independent television. My name is Daisy Obisek and you're welcome to the program Flipside. Nigeria is 59 and we're talking about nation building, we're talking about democracy, we're talking about corruption, and we're talking about other kinds of issues that will be beneficial to making our nation better. But we've not talked about safety. Seemed like people weren't talking about that recently. That was even yesterday. On Tuesday, we had one of the film producing companies in this side of town ablaze, and everyone kept asking questions like, why don't they have sprinklers? What safety measures did they put in place to fight cases of fire? Knowing full well that foam is one quick, very flammable material, but apart from fire, there are several other areas of our lives where we need to talk about safety. If we're not safe, if we're all getting injuries, we're getting cases of death flying all around us, I don't know who's going to remain in the nation that will be talking about democracy and corruption. But on Flipside today, we're going to talk about cultivating safety. We're going to cultivating safety culture for nation building. Cultivating safety culture for nation building. We're going to cultivate that safety culture for nation building. I have a safety trainer here, a safety professional, whichever way you're going to see him. Someone you've seen here before on the grounds of Red Cross, but he's also a trainer and he's also a safety expert. So he's going to talk to us on this. But we'll go on a break quickly. Let's deal on It's About You, Potbelly. When we come back from that break, you'll meet my guest and we'll begin to talk about cultivating safety culture for nation building. We'll be right back.
Belly fat is an excessive fat in the abdomen and around the stomach. It looks odd when you wear tight clothes and causes embarrassment. In fact, it's difficult to lose flaps from the belly region. Many people try to lose belly fat by eating less or famishing themselves, which is not at all a good idea and may result in several harmful side effects. The worst part is that the dream of getting flat and slim stomach remains elusive even after taking exercise and a healthy diet, because we, out of sheer ignorance, make many mistakes which shatter our dreams of getting a flat stomach. But worry no more. The healthy way to trim down your tummy is to use natural home remedies. The first thing to do is to change your feeding habits. Banish all junk food from your diet and stick to a healthy diet. Junk foods like pizza, burger, noodles, processed food, and fast food like soft drinks, fries, and pastries have a high caloric value and are too unhealthy. Reduce sugar intake, beers, and carbonated drinks. They cause bloating. So, for getting flat stomach, you have to stay away from them. Reason being that most junk foods are laden with high amount of processed carbohydrates and sugar, the main cause of bulging and fat tummy. Banish all junk foods from your diet to lose weight from the stomach and to get a flat tummy. Now that you have banished junk from your diet, replace them with healthy food and vegetables. We can't afford to make you hungry. Eat more raw foods like fruits. You will find that they are so much tastier and satisfying than cooked food. It detoxifies the body, makes you feel light and healthy, and over time you won't even feel like polluting your body with unhealthy food. Let your diet include watermelon because it contains 82% water, which helps your stomach not to crave for food. Watermelon is rich in vitamin C, which is beneficial for health. Cucumber also could be included. It contains 96% water and 45% calories. Add cucumber in your diet as a salad or eat raw cucumber to get a flat tummy now. Avocado is another useful fruit for burning excess fat. Avocado is rich in fiber and monounsaturated fatty acids. Use avocado to replace margarine and butter. Another thing is avoid fried foods. But if you must fry your foods, go for oils with high concentration of monounsaturated fats MUFAs like soybean oil and olive oil. Let your diet include nuts rich in fiber like walnuts, peanuts, and almonds. Still talking about your feeding habits. Stop eating late at night as it causes accumulation of fat around your belly. Try to eat at least 2 hours before you go to bed to keep the stomach fat away. Avoid overeating. Large meals put a lot of load on the stomach and intestine. It reduces your digestion. Chances are that a lot of food will be stored as fat instead of used for energy, especially if you are not physically active. Eat slowly and chew each morsel well. It will control the amount of food you take and make you feel satiated early. You must follow this tip to lose fat from your belly and get a slim, flat stomach. Away from your feeding habits, drink lemon juice. Lemon juice on a daily basis will definitely reduce belly fat soon. Add lemon juice in a glass of water, a pinch of salt, garlic, and ginger. Stir it well. Drink this every morning in order to reduce belly fat. Green tea works as a detoxifier which helps in burning the excess body fat. Consuming green tea daily will also make your skin glow as well as make your tummy flat. You should also drink plenty of water. Water helps in reducing weight. Drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. This will not only flush the fat but also make your skin shiny and glowy. Your hair will become healthy. In fact, your whole body will become radiant. After doing all these, you can take exercise to reduce stomach fat and tone up the abdominal muscles. Taking exercise is the best way to tone up your stomach muscles and lose weight quickly. There are several sets of exercises that will help give you a flat tummy and a toned up ab. Exercises like squats, sit-ups, dancing, crunches, and running on a treadmill. Or better still, contact a gym instructor. Don't forget, your feeding habit is the major cause of pot belly. Change your feeding habit and see a positive result. Your body is your responsibility. Take good care of it.
Okay, so someone that just watched this documentary and sent a message that he has taken lemon and it didn't work. Okay, it does work. Lemon is a serious fat burner, but you know, in this issue of health, weight loss and maintenance, you must combine two things. Like you have to eat clean and then you need to exercise. So I'm like going to ask that person, how often does he work out in a week, and then how often does he eat clean? Do you consume alcohol? After taking like 2 bottles of beer, you go take 1 lemon and you think it's going to work. It's not magic now. So it takes a combination of eating clean. If you watch the full documentary, you see the part where you say swap your unhealthy drinks for healthier drinks, swap your unhealthy, fatty, starchy foods for healthier foods, and all of those things is a process. Okay, so back to what we're talking about today, safety culture for nation building. Nigeria is 59. We need to build a safe nation for the children who are coming. I have Oganete Wigo in the house, and he's a safety trainer, safety expert, safety professional, safety, everything. Welcome to Flipside once again. All right, so we're talking about safety culture to mark Nigeria's birthday. But what exactly is safety culture?
Okay, so it's interesting that we're discussing this at this time. Safety culture is an approach we take, the idea behind how safe we are, the mentality of consciousness. So it's a behavioral thing. There's what we call behavior-based safety. So basically, you cannot be talking about safety or safety index or safety ratio without the safety culture. So it's the approach we take and the way we view safety that determines what safety culture is.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. I will take a break quickly. We need to sort out something quickly. So we'll be back. Don't go. We just started.
Called to lose flaps from the belly region. Many people
hereby invites application from suitably qualified candidates for admission into its Joint Universities Preliminary Examinations Board JUPEB program for 2019-2020 session. The program leads to the award of JUPEB certificate, which enables successful candidates gain direct entry admissions 200 level into Igbinedion University, Okada, and other JUPEB affiliated universities in Nigeria and abroad. Method of application. Application forms should also be completed online through our university website www.jupeb.iuokada.edu.ng under admission. Candidates advised to follow the application instructions very carefully and ensure they select the correct subject combination. Application fee is 10,000 naira only, payable to Access Bank. Account number 078-707-7169. Account name IUO JUPEB. Lecture begins September 24th, 2019. For more inquiries, please call 0803-433-1960 or 0807-207-2611. Email jupeb@iuokada.edu.ng. Announcer Dr. Edwin Okoro, Registrar.
Generator fumes are gases ejected from the engine of a power generating set as waste products. The big question is, would you drive your car into your house and leave it running? It only makes sense that you should never run a generator inside your house either, cause like cars, all power generating sets give off carbon monoxide, which is a poisonous, odorless, colorless and very deadly gas. So, never ever run a portable generator indoors or in a partially enclosed space, including your kitchen, garage, bathroom, toilet, or even if you use fans or open doors and windows, because you could end up dead. This is a safety message from Independent Television and Radio.
Still parts of safety. Generator fumes all around. We don't have light in Edo State, in Benin City particularly. And so we're talking about safety. And at night, first of all, you can hardly hear your neighbors because everyone's generator is turned on. Then let's not even start talking about the carbon monoxide. That's another matter entirely. So we've established before now that safety culture is a way of life. It's not just something you wake up and you talk about safety once and you're like, okay, I have safety culture. You need to work hard at it. Okay, so but what does a safety trainer or a safety professional do?
Okay, so basically, safety is a profession. It's, even though it's still an evolving profession here in Nigeria, it's more advanced in other parts of the world. The safety professional is that person who is a bridge between those who are administering an area and the other persons who are responsible or are subject to the administration of those who are administering. So the safety trainer drives safety. Is the implementer of safety policies. So basically, if you have a company and the management make policies for that company, the employees are supposed to work in line with the policies that are made. So the safety professional is in the middle between management and the employees to ensure that management is not losing and the professionals are not at risk. So the safety professional is that person who ensures that you are safe. So he's pretty much the supervisor of work, he's the implementer of policies, he's the one who takes charge to ensure that things work well and he reduces the risk, the loss, the hazards that are present. And that even though safety is everybody's business, but somebody has to take responsibility and be at the forefront in driving it.
Well, how well do Nigerians patronize safety experts?
Well, like I said, it's evolving, right? So it's not where it should be, that much I can agree. But I think we're getting there slowly. And again, that will take us back to safety culture, which is why to a very large extent, some of us are advocating. Even what I'm doing right now is part of driving home safety culture, because we're going to talk about, I can't live here and not talk about certain important things. We are trying to ensure that persons are more aware. I think that's where it starts. The awareness to the hazards, awareness of the risks that exist, maybe in where you work, how you've been doing a thing before. For instance, I give you a certain thing, ergonomics, matching people to work and ensuring that they do that safely. A lot of people, when they want to pick a thing from the floor, they just, from the way they're standing, they flex their back and their waist and just reach down and pick that thing. And at the end, you find that over time, they complain about how they have back aches, lumbago, waist pain, things in that nature. Whereas we're told that the best way to bend, if you're going to bend to the ground, is to flex your knee. You understand? So, but these are things that the safety professionals, we need to raise awareness about. We need to continue to drive home those messages, because it's a culture, it's a behavior. So we must sound that message such that it begins to ring in people's heads. They realize, like in those days when we were in nursery school, they tell us, there were songs we used to sing. If you want to cross the road, you look left, right, and left again. And then green light says stops, red light says this,
green light says red light says
stop, yellow, the amber says get ready, green says go. So basically, these are things that from infancy were designed to drive home that message, to raise our awareness. So as you go on, when you want to cross the road, there's this consciousness: look left, right, left again. And then you get to a traffic light. Even though when some of us were much younger, traffic lights were non-existent, but we already knew these things. So repetition is one of the things why you have to have persons who are fixed in the field, who can spot the hazards, spot the needs, and know how to drive the message. It's like a gospel. You must have ministers, you must have evangelizers that go out to preach that message. So it's constant with us, and we can begin to adapt our behaviors to these changes. And these are the things that drive home safety culture.
Okay, Nigeria as a nation, 59, where are we as regards safety? Because maybe we should be thinking more of maybe we should start getting Minister of Safety or something. Okay, well, where are we in terms of safety?
It's not very, that question is not very straightforward, but we're doing well, that much I can say. We have Eastbourne now, Eastbourne is the regulator of safety in Nigeria based on the Eastbourne Act. So there's that. However, we realize that the major challenge, I think, for my personal experience, is we still battle with a bit of negligence. A lot of people are still covered by the blood or religious mantra that nothing will happen. We've been doing these things for so long, so there's no need. So it's mostly companies or bodies that have foreign experience that buy better into safety, because they realize that things can go wrong in the blink of an eye. And then it's part of their company policy as well that these things must be in place. You must have a HSC department, you must have a safety manager, you must have a certain trained personnel in a certain area for a number of staff. Whereas for the most part, to some other persons, some other companies that are more domestic do not have that consciousness, or just feel anybody can do it. As far as we have common sense, we can get these things on. So I think those are the major challenges. Otherwise, we have a body, like I said, Eastbourne, that is domiciled. It's in the law right now that Eastbourne should regulate these things. The Ministry of Labour also is playing its role in ensuring that these things happen. But again, we need more safety professionals. We need to partner with the educational sector. We need to ensure that parts of safety education is built into our curriculum, because I think it does a great deal if at maybe secondary school level we can have some elements of safety. The same way we used to have physical and health education, we can have some elements of safety education built into our curriculum, such that children from nursery, primary, and even secondary school can begin to change certain areas, certain mentality that they have, and do things more safely. Because as I mentioned to you now, a lot of persons will not even have known that if you're going to lift, you should lift close to your body and not so far away. You should also realize, for instance, fire safety. A lot of persons do not even realize the need to have fire extinguishers. A lot of people do not even realize that there are different types of fire extinguishers. A lot of people do not even realize that when you want to even deploy a fire extinguisher, you should check for where the wind is. So there are certain little details that we could be learning as a people, as against consciousness too. Then also, if you look at partnerships with other areas, is building codes that also need to be adjusted. It needs to be driven down home safely. You find certain houses, they have only one entrance or one access. If you check most of our big corporate buildings these days, they have fire exits quite well, but they did not realize that fire exit ought to open out, not open in. I've been in certain banks where the fire exits open in, they don't open out. So these are very little details that also need to be. So basically, it means we have a lot of work to do. I'm not going to dispute that. As safety professionals, we need to continue to drive home these messages. But again, the people need to be aware that we are doing these things for their safety. Safety is everybody's business. So it's one thing when a safety professional is telling you that these things are necessary. It's another thing if you are even listening to what it is that you're being told.
Okay, I'm going to ask y'all this question. We're talking about safety. We're talking about well-being for our nation to be healthier and safer. And I'm just going to ask, how often do you go for a medical checkup, like a full body scan, and you want to check if your cholesterol level is okay, your blood pressure is fine, and you're not just covering it all up with the blood of Jesus and all of this stuff. But seriously, safety is a big deal, and we all need to start giving it serious attention. Okay, still talking about safety in the workplace. You know, you said something about the way we do things. We just keep doing it like that because it hasn't yielded, it hasn't resulted to anything negative.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just, I've been doing this for years,
So
why is it going to change now? So we have that as it was in the beginning, so it will be forever attitude in Nigeria. But how do we now introduce safety in the workplace and make it palatable? It's a lot of work to change from the usual, and safety is not really an easy business if I'm going to look at it the way it's done. So how do you make it palatable and welcoming that everybody wants to embrace it?
Okay, great. There's many rules to this question. There's many approaches to it, and different safety bodies have different approaches to these things. One of the most direct routes to it is training. So it's for those at the helm of affairs to even realize that there's a need for this shift. Because if I go to a person and I tell the person I want to train you in safety, a lot of persons may not. If you don't find that as necessary, you may not buy into what. Even if I'm going to train you for free. So the most direct approach to it is training. So for the most part, there's free trainings that come about. For instance, I'm here on television right now, I'm talking about safety. So I expect that at the end of the day, one or two persons will awaken that consciousness in them and realize that there's a need to do something about it. That's on the one hand. Then there's also advocacy that we do. For my company that I represent, we do a lot of advocacy and all of those things. And I know a lot of other bodies who have similar programs. Affiliations, I have affiliations with World Safety Organization, and I know that they have a program they call Safer, where they invest persons who are already doing great things in advancing the safety culture and safety message across various spheres of life, and then induct them as ambassadors so that they can support programs that increase the visibility of safety in Nigeria. So that's another approach that they do, and there's a lot of other bodies that do the same thing. So the idea is advocacy is one thing, reception is another. So we cannot undermine the role advocacy plays, because we need to first raise that awareness that there's something before we can start talking about actionable plans that people need to make. So, but ultimately, we need to let people realize. Then again, persons who have not been affected by hazards, persons who have not been negatively impacted by negligence, do not really see the need for safety. For instance, a person who has had a generator placed at a precarious location will not think that there's anything wrong with it until maybe they see a news report saying some persons died as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning, and then realize, okay, how safe is my generator at this point? And then again, you still have persons who, no matter what you do, will not listen. So that's yet again another thing. You were talking just now about health and care. A lot of people do not realize that certain things that they do at work may be causing them hazards. I know someone who's currently working on research that is testing the hazards that spray painting, for instance, does on the painters.
The painter.
Yes. So you're doing spray painting, and it's a commendable job. It's something that people do commonly. You know, a lot of persons are patronized, but do these persons realize they need to wear safety gear, wear their mask and all of those things? So these are things that you need to drive home to conscious levels, not just waiting for boardrooms or corporate trainings and all of those things.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk about violence on our streets. The increase in jungle justice, then there's physical security. That part of it is also something alarming. If I can just break out and before you know it, someone is knocked down, and you also hear cases of the police trying to ask for money, or maybe they were trying to break a fight, and eventually there's a stray bullets, they call it accidental discharge and all of those stuff. But our streets are not really as safe as I think they should be. So the question I'm asking is on firearms, your personal opinion on this.
Okay.
So many have said Nigeria should introduce a firearm law that allows everybody to carry arms to defend themselves. So if a thief breaks into your house with a gun, it's first to shoot. So that oppression of don't raise your hands or lie down flat will be reduced. But what do you think about this? Because for us, since it seems like our security operatives are not doing enough, so in a bid to protect ourselves, should we introduce a free use of firearms?
Let me start by saying this. There's QHSSE, Quality, Health, Safety, Security, Education.
Okay.
Now, what that means is there's security in the practice, there's health, there's safety, there's, of course, environment, and then there's quality. Now, the idea is security is a component of safety. That's why the persons in law enforcement will say safe and secure. Now, I want to cite the American example, which is, of course, well, I'm going to make this my personal opinion as a safety expert. America, till right now, as you and I speak, still has some issues with gun laws, gun violence, and that is the most armed nation in the world. America has more guns than people, so far. Now, they have gun law issues, gun safety issues. Now, Nigeria, right now, the law allows for certain levels of firearms. Our laws do not allow for concealable weapons. So, which means you have to have certain levels of permit and yada, yada, yada. Now, that's on the one hand. If you are asking as to whether persons should be allowed to have more guns, the question I would ask is, are you going to educate persons on safety for these guns? Because right now we are looking at safety for other areas, for regular areas, realizing that your exit has to be a certain way, realizing that when the building gets to a certain level, you cannot use just staircase anymore. You need to have escalators and elevators and all of those things. And we still have issues with electrical installation, standardization, and all of those things. So if people are not aware that there are codes and standards to these things that can affect their safety, I'm not very sure as a safety professional that if you say more persons should have guns, we'll be able to regulate effectively the safe use of these weapons. So that's my concern. So instead of recommending that persons have access to more guns, I think what I would focus on doing is looking at how we can equip our policemen better, how we can make our environment safer. For instance, if you have a street properly lit with street lights, I think in some communities they have solar street lights. So we cannot even be talking about electric supply, whether there was light supply from BDC or not. So that would not be the issue. So if we have, because the lighting up of the area is a safety matter. So for those in security experts, they will tell you that you should have lights outside. So that's on the one thing, on the one hand. Then there are also closed communities, gated communities that have security guards as neighborhood watch and all of those things. That's yet again another approach to securing lives and property in this instance. These days, there are persons who now use certain kind of barbed wire, electric fencing, perimeter security, CCTV, and all of those things. These are other angles that could be employed to safety and security of property before we now start talking about when they are already in your premises. And then again, sometimes if they're already in your premise, I think one of the first things, from my own personal experience still, is they're going to be asking if you have a gun. So, and then again, if it becomes a shootout, that's another matter, because if they are aware that you have a gun in your premises, I'm sure they will also go prepared for that eventuality. So I think we should be looking at equipping our security forces better, and then also looking at how we can make the environment easier for them to police and guard.
Okay, now we're talking about cultivating safety culture for nation building. Nigeria at 59, how safe are we? We'll go on a break on this show. When we come back, we'll talk about food and water safety, because we know we have Ward D for water International Day Against Open Defecation and all the many international days, and we don't need to wait for those days to talk about these things. We eat every day. You drink water, except of course when you're fasting, and even that fast, you still will break it. Now, even if you decide not to move around your streets for 5 days and you're locking yourself indoor, there's still safety in the house. Okay, you're not even moving, you're just staying there. You still have to eat and drink water. So we need to talk a little bit about food and water safety, but we'll go on a break. When we come back from that break, we'll address that part of safety issues. We'll be back. Okay, so education is really, really key to unlock all kinds of ignorance and make you know things. We're educating you on this show. So even if it's not a classroom with a blackboard and all of that, we're here and it's still part of education and enlightenment. So I'm Daisy Vice, and for those who just joined us, the program is Flipside. We're talking about cultivating safety culture for nation building. And that's because Nigeria is 59 and we need to start addressing other issues apart from corruption and malpractices, teenage pregnancy, underage marriage, and all of those. There's so many areas and issues that we need to deal with before we become 60. But at least by the time we're 60, we need to have gotten to a level where we look at ourselves and say, okay, kudos, you did well. When you were 59, you were at this level. Now you're 60. Now, you moved at a geometric progression, and so you deserve some accolades. I have Oganetejiri Owigo in the house, and we're talking about this together. He's a safety trainer. We talked about a lot of safety issues, but at this point, I want to talk about food and water safety. Okay. We eat all the time. We have as many food vendors in Benin as cars now, because that's an exaggeration, but everywhere you turn, okay, let me say as much as churches, because that's another business that's thriving, and schools. You know, you turn in one street, you're seeing those who hawk with their head, you're seeing those with a barrow, you're seeing those that have a wooden shop, you see a restaurant, a fast food. There's always a food place somewhere. We eat out, we make food, we preserve this food. Sometimes we don't even have lights to preserve the food. And then let's not even get into the aspect of water. But how do we assess that our food is safe? And of course, how do we keep our food and water safe?
Okay, so first things first, for things that are commercially sold, we have two bodies that ideally should regulate these things. We have Standards Organization of Nigeria. We also have NAFDAC who ought to regulate. And I know that over time, the practice they tend to do is go out, get samples of these things for testing. As I mentioned earlier, we have QHSSE, so they are the quality approach to it now. So they ensure that the quality is kept at a standard. Now that's on one hand, that's one approach that they may take. And then of course, NAFDAC too also wants to be sure that certain things meet certain standards before they are released into the market. So that's on the one hand. But I think beyond that, we should begin to harness what we also have. There's a third approach to it, which are our environmental health officers. You know, they are not, for me personally, I don't think they are effectively being utilized. Because I think these persons, if you check by what is obtainable abroad, these officers are pretty much like policemen. They go out, they are inspectors, they go out to ensure that buildings, facilities comply with these safety standards, they comply with these regulations. And left to me, if you go to our markets where we get our food from, a lot of them, especially open air markets, they leave a lot more to be desired, safety being concerned. So you see that foods are exposed, you know, flies and all of those things. So it comes down to you when you buy your things from the market to now ensure that you can reduce how much harm has, you know, how much contamination that meal has or raw food has faced. So which also means that if you do not cook to a certain temperature, you do not cook for a certain duration of time, you find out that you eat your own food that you have cooked by yourself and your stomach begins to, you know, complain about what it is that you have eaten. So which also begs the question, are we conscious of safety standards when we are cooking our own food? A lot of people take these things for granted because they feel it's my own food, it's my own body, but these things matter. So it's one thing when other persons are handling your food, which of course we hope the government protects us from. But then again, when we take these things home, how are our kitchens? What are the approaches that we take? Are we careless with how we handle our food? Do we realize how we're supposed to keep vegetables? Do we realize that we should not eat certain things in combination? So these are things that we also need to be conscious of. Then again, we also need to be conscious of where we buy things from. So if we know what to avoid, then we would also know where to go to avoid those sort of things. So I think these are the things that matter. And then again, there's awareness levels that have been raised as to bottled waters. We find persons hawking bottled water these days. There have been certain questions as to persons bottling this water on their own, not as the normal vendors that we know, the normal manufacturers. So that's another thing. Again, we know that these things can happen, which is why some persons have stuck to more notable brands. So which is another thing that comes into question when safety is concerned, the brand. So persons have said when you stick to brand buying, it's more expensive, but then again, it's assurance. You're sure that what it is that you're buying is at that standard. So it's now a thing where companies that are providing services, companies that are making products now should strive to ensure that they meet up with the required standards so that we can give them out as recommended brands, persons that will not try to kill us, you know, when they handle our foods, which is why it's also good too that when companies are employing staff, they train them, retrain them, make sure they are up to standard. For instance, if you're handling food processing and all your staff have long flowing hair and you are in food processing, that would be very, very unethical, even if it's food processing for just a couple of people. So when we invite caterers too for our private functions and all of that, are we conscious of how they are? How do they wash their hands? You know, and all of those things. So these are things, little things, but they matter a lot. You know, some persons just feel once you just take. I'll give you an instance. They want to serve your food. Maybe they want to give you meat because the meat is pretty big. They hold it with one spoon and they use their thumb to hold it to the spoon, and they think they are protecting you. So these things happen,
Yeah.
and a lot of people just ignore it and say it's the hand is clean. I've been serving for other people, and then it's less than ideal, but it's still part of the safety culture that we're talking about.
I remembered one day I went to buy suya. Now in Nigeria, for those watching outside of Nigeria, you know, at night, that's one thing you see in abundance in our city, Benin City, all over Nigeria actually. And we don't joke with it. In fact, if you even say you love a girl, you need to buy her suya. It's part of the dating process. So I was going to get some for myself, and I was approaching, and I saw the malam picking his nose.
Interesting.
Oh God, I felt so irritated, and I really wanted to eat suya. So I had to go. Then later I came and I'll buy it. I was so confused. I knew if I bought it and I'm eating it, I'm going to feel very uncomfortable. Maybe I'll even end up throwing up. Like, if you could pick his nose like this, are you sure he didn't sneeze, he didn't after cleaning? And you know, and then you even see some women with babies. The baby pool will be a site where they sell food, they pack it, and then they come back to sell for you. And I kind of understand why some people do not eat out. But that doesn't mean even the ones they make in their houses are
It's
clean.
much better.
Like I said, away from food and water, let's talk about driving. And we've entered Ember months. This is usually the period we talk about accidents. We even have a jingle on independent television where we talk about, remember, Ember months you deal. Accident not just be happen. Now me and you know because I'm making a drive with care. We do that jingle once we enter September because accidents usually increase that period. We have people traveling to get goods to sell, to visit their loved ones. People are in a rush to complete their homes. So everybody, the hustle increases like times 2. And while we're going to still take our time to talk about safety on our roads before Christmas and maybe some other safety issues that are peculiar to the festivities, we need to address safety, health for safety, safety for driving right now. For those who are walking with their legs, and those who are driving the cars, and those who are riding bicycles, for everyone using our road users, how do you ensure that you're safe as a road user?
Let me say this yet again. Safety is everybody's business.
Yeah.
So it's not just the responsibility of the driver. As you clearly pointed out, the person who is walking, the pedestrian, is also responsible for his safety. So you cannot entrust your safety in somebody else's care, because if you do that and the person fails, at the end of the day, it falls back to you to ensure that you're safe. So you have to take charge of your safety, and as much as possible, try as much as possible to take responsibility for other people's safety. Then again, they are also taking charge of their safety and looking out for yours. That's how it ought to work. Why am I saying this? As we've been talking, I've been mentioning the agencies, government agencies that are implicated in some of these safety issues. And for road, it's obviously the Federal Road Safety Corps that take lead for road safety issues. The way it works right now is a person who needs to have driver's license in Nigeria first has to go through a driving school, recognized driving school, get a driving learner's certificate or something of the sort, learn to drive, and then the driving school presents you having completed a driving course for a permanent driver's license. Now the idea of doing that is to ensure that the persons that are behind the wheels on our road are qualified. They are persons who can actually drive. But the challenge with that is there are a lot of enforcement issues, right? Most of the time, I think there was a time when there was this joint task force that comes out on a certain day to do inspection on motorists and all that. And one thing we noticed at that point is the commercial bus drivers hide. Partly because most of them, they don't come out in that period. They also cut down the distances they cover.
Yeah.
The reason is a lot of them don't have driver's license. They always start as conductors and graduate to become drivers.
They call them motor boys.
So at some point, when the driver is away, they drive a small distance or learn by reversing, and then before you know it, they are driving on those, and no paperwork, no nothing. So these persons don't have the driving safety culture. So which means that they do not realize that since I'm a commercial vehicle, I realize that I may stop at every point in time. I should not be on the fast lane. So these are little things that cause accidents. You realize that you're going to stop a passenger because the person says he wants to stop a light at a junction. You do not realize that you should stop after the junction. You stop before, and a person who is driving into the main road cannot see for oncoming traffic. So these are things that are contained in the highway code. But of course, most of these persons, apart from being illiterate, do not even care about the highway code. And they also did not go through the driving lessons as they were supposed to. So they're not aware of some of these driving rules. That's why you have these issues where persons are fighting over who has right of way. And then again, we have been told over time that when we are on the road, we're a team. So driving is teamwork. We have to drive like we're on the same side, not driving like we're at war. These are the things that also cause problems. Then again, there's something as simple as how a pedestrian should walk on the road. We've been told by standard highway code, the pedestrian is supposed to walk against traffic, which means that while drivers are supposed to keep right, you as pedestrian, you're supposed to keep left. That way you have visual appreciation of oncoming traffic. So if for any reason the driver who is oncoming has lost control of the vehicle, you can see before it gets to you. Not the same as when you are back in traffic. Then again, if you're walking at night, you should also have something that can reflect, something that can light, like a small touch light, so they know that there's something or someone there, which is what we are used to policemen doing when they're on the road. But people don't have, at least to a very large extent, this safety culture, which is why some of these accidents happen. So in the instance of what happens during the Ember month, you have a lot of persons who do not have that consciousness, which is why they are reckless on the road. Then again, we have this new directive that transporters ought to have speed limiting devices on their vehicles, right? And these speed limiting vehicle devices are to ensure that the drivers do not go beyond a certain speed limit. Question again, how many of our drivers know the speed limits for each type of road that they're applying? So we have certain roads that you should have certain speed limits. We have certain other roads, whether they are trunk A, trunk B, trunk C roads. So drivers, if they go through the normal driving procedure, they go through normal driving lessons and all that. These are things that they are taught. So when they do not know that and they drive, they believe they have the whole of the road, so they can fire the vehicle to the end. And at the end of the day, when there's a need for the vehicle to come to halt suddenly, they don't have the required stopping distance or time, reaction time. And that, which is another thing that causes accidents. For instance, I'm driving on the highway, I'm the only person on the road. What if an animal just suddenly hops out from the bush? What do I do? Then again, we have this approach where people like to drive on the corner. You have the normal distance you should give from the road, but some persons just like to hug the corner of the road. So there are a lot of issues, and this oftentimes reflects where persons don't have proper driver's education.
Okay, so we still have a lot more to talk about on safety issues, so many other areas to deal with. Emergency preparedness is also another big area. Maybe we'll leave that one for Christmas period because there are a lot of emergencies also at that time. But Nigeria 59, maybe just give us a brief summary or whatever it is you want to say to us or sell us as regards building our nation through safety.
Okay, I believe these are my final words.
Yes, they are.
Safety is everybody's business. That's the first thing that I want to say. Safety is everybody's business. We, as a people, need to be more responsible for our safety. The government still has to take lead, in as much as we are all safety professionals, and like I said, safety is everybody's business. Government is our big brother, and the agencies that need to take point in some of these things, the FRSE, ISPON, NAFDAC, SON, all of them, they need to actually be up and doing it again to ensure that a lot of these things that are currently mitigating our safety are taken care of. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it at.
Thank you so much, Owen and Tejuri, for being with us on Flipside. Again, pleasure. Every time we call, you honors our invitation. Okay, so personally, I'm going to say when a nation is sick, well, I don't really see the nation in it. You need a healthy people for you to govern over. You need to have followers who are ready to do things for you to say you're a leader. If we're all weak, unhealthy, unsafe, then what are you leading? Who are you going to lead when we all die with? And I'm going to use this opportunity to urge owners of organizations, companies, to buy into the NHI scheme. That's another way you can help and contribute your quota. Apart from getting the safety expert to give your workers drills and get your buildings protected against fire, outbreak, and all of that stuff, you also need to help them to do medical checkups and all that. I mean, NHI seems to be the biggest thing now in the health sector for us. Everybody's talking it. So if you know your company has not bought into that scheme, you're behind. Help your workers and also help protect their families on a very cheap note. So do that. I'm Daisy Obisek, and thank you so much for watching Flipside today. I'll be back again next week with another issue to address. Bye.